I think there has to be a much greater effort for support and specifically for help with mental health issues in our schools, because I have multiple friends that suffer from mental health and depression and anxiety disorders, and there's really no organized effort that I've heard of from my friends within the school to support them.
There are a few students who make it very public by posting things on social media websites, showing pictures of their cuts or talking about how they just feel done, quote unquote, saying that they're just sick of everything that they have to deal with. So you can, just by scrolling through your newsfeed, you can tell that a lot of your classmates feel very alone sometimes and very sad, and people will reach out, try to help them, but in the end I feel like everyone just has bad days or bad weeks or maybe even bad years.
I try to be the class clown, and it doesn't always work, but I kind of put myself as a center of attention, which I shouldn't do all the time, but I do sometimes, and it makes you feel like everyone's caring about you, and when that doesn't happen, it just makes you feel kind of depressed.
I think everybody goes through a time where they feel a little sad or depressed, and I think it affects schoolwork a little bit, but I think I think the social aspects that play into that sadness or depression are what really affects the schoolwork or the classroom environment the most.
Unfortunately, kids who are different disabilities, who don't wear the same clothes, gay or lesbian, they are more prone to bullying, but I guess that's the unfortunate truth.
I feel that it's not really safe for me at school at this point, that I would rather stay home and relax and try to get my mind off of bullying and maybe get homeschooled, but that won't happen because my parents don't have the time, so I have to deal with this bully every single day.
I think it's the way our society is and how we grew up to think that we're better than everyone else and that there's always something wrong with everyone else and not ourselves. And so it's hard to address what's wrong with you, and it's hard not to look at someone and see the things that you think are wrong with them, but once you experience the emotion and the pain, then you know what they're going through, and it's heartbreaking.
I think friends are afraid to stand up just because they're afraid to be a victim, and just they don't want to get picked on for being nice to someone. Like, if you're not so popular, they don't want to get picked on for being nice to that not so popular person.
I don't think bullying is going to end anytime soon. Everyone bullies. I can talk about how bullying is bad all the time, but I know that sometimes I can bully people and I won't even realize that I'm saying something bad about this person behind their back, even though they do the same thing to me. So bullying is really complicated, and people who think bullying is bad still are bullies.
I feel like cyberbullying is getting worse and worse as technology gets better. Facebook is like an easy site to just log on and say, I hate you, or you're ugly, or I know a lot of people nowadays are using that truth is, and truth is you like the status, and the person just types back anything that they like or don't like about you. And I think sometimes even the victims are getting themselves into it because they're clicking like.
I've had some friends that have had very severe cyberbullying, and it's just so difficult because they hide behind the computer screen and you can't really tell how serious they're being. This year our school actually had a huge instance of cyberbullying. We had a confessions page made about our school where you could post anything you wanted from your computer and it would be displayed on the page anonymously. So people were saying terrible things, and some people were telling other people that they should be killed just because of who, like what, like if they were LGBT, they should be dead. If they like certain people, or they were making derogatory comments about girls because of what they look like. And it was definitely a huge issue, and there's a lot of people that were very offended, and they had nowhere to direct their anger toward besides the page, which was a huge problem. And we ended up having to get the cops involved.
Cyberbullying is, I think it's a really bad form of bullying because it leads to depression. A lot of times, when I've heard of it, and people do it over the internet, and there's so many ways of communicating now over the internet and technology that I think it's a really bad thing.
I feel like I could probably go to my social studies teacher or my student council advisor because they're both very open and personable people, whereas they don't make it uncomfortable to talk to, and they're very casual. And I think what I like about it is that if you're going through something, they don't dramatize it, if you will. They don't make it bigger than it needs to be.
My 7th grade language teacher, I really trust her and we're very close, and I can tell her anything, and if there's any problems or anything at school, I know that I can come to her and say anything that I need to, and I know that if it's a problem for me and it's like a real problem, she will go and talk to the counselor, or she'll go and talk to the counselor with me and help me out.
I trust the specific teacher a lot because I really look up to her because she's so caring and she doesn't judge anyone, and so I could trust her with anything.
I believe that we do have teachers that are very trustworthy, that everybody can relate with. They know what's going on. Yes, our school looks welcoming. Like, if just by looking at it, you can tell it's a school. And then the teachers and office people are very safe.
Teachers, I know they do care about us. If you have a hard time on something, they'll tell you, you can come in and I can help you with this if you need any help. Of course, we have our guidance counselor who's always open to help us with things.
Our school has tried to make it better by having something called BPAs, which is a bully prevention agency, where there are people that walk around the halls and try to stop the bullying. But the problem with that is it's the kids that are usually bullied that are being the BPAs, the people with the badges. So before you know it, they're the next ones picked on.
We have an Alex Center in our school, and really it's pretty much of a joke. It's a mock detention, you can almost think of it as. And so what this Alex Center does is you're put in this room for the day, whether it's an in-school suspension, if it's a period of days. And the technology policies there are really, really lax. You can use your phones, you can go on the computers. I mean, after the teacher does make you get your work done, then it's a lazy day.
The teachers just give them referrals or send them to the office to work it out, or send them to in-school suspension or have them suspended. And then that will take care of it for maybe maximum a week. And then the next week it would start again.
In our school, we do have a police officer, a local police officer. We have surveillance cameras around the school. And to enter the school, most of the doors are locked, but the main doors are open most of the time. There's always a janitor or someone in the building, surveillance cameras obviously, and they enforce safety, I guess, in the school.
I think the surveillance cameras do a great job of monitoring things that are happening right now, and they keep a very accurate record of things that happened over the course of the day. The way to identify, in my opinion, those conflicts that do occur is to watch the trends and watch the patterns of the location and the specific people that are there, because it's in my opinion anyway, there's a certain element of consistency in the location and the group of people that are causing the conflict.
I think that a lot of the kids have went through maybe problems at home, either in high school or middle school or even when they were younger, and I think it has affected them and how they act. And I think that maybe there's something wrong with them, maybe they need some help learning how to express their feelings, but I also think that they like to just take out what they're feeling on other kids, and it's not right.
I think a bully is someone who is not self-confident. I feel like people, most of the time, I can't find any other reason why people would bully besides that they're not confident in themselves. I feel like sometimes people just are like, oh, well, I'm not cool enough, so if I bully, people will like me. And it makes them feel better about themselves. So I think they just don't have enough self-confidence, or maybe their life at home is rough and they're trying to make themselves feel better at school.
I think a lot of times we don't exactly consider that there might be some insecurities or some issues going on in the bully's life that is causing that reaction to occur. And it's not always just the bully going out of their way to be that way. That's kind of the predisposition that I think a lot of us get inside our heads, is that a bully is just a bad person, but we really don't take the time to consider what may be happening behind the scenes in their lives, or what may be issues within their own lives. Maybe they're getting bullied. I think those things really need to be considered.
There was a situation, a student had a butterfly knife, if you will, a set of like 5 knives or whatever that come out. I don't know if it was actually threatened, but it was an occurrence where students were kind of afraid of that person. And another situation where a student threw a chair at another person. But I think the people who were kind of the antagonists of that situation, they had some mental problems, some things that they were going through. But me personally, I feel very safe, and I think there's a very small group of students at my school who do not feel safe.
I don't think it's locking everything, because if you locking doors doesn't do anything. We need to be looking for those kids. We have to be looking in classrooms for people that seem physically upset, people that look like they are having a hard time, instead of ignoring those people and kind of just pushing them in a corner, which is, if you look in a lot of these past shootings with these people, you kind of could have seen it coming and it could have been prevented. And it's not necessarily because of safety issues, I don't believe, because in a lot of those instances, locks wouldn't have fixed those situations. They would have gotten in the schools regardless, and we need to be looking at the people, not necessarily the setting.
To my knowledge, I've never heard of anyone bringing weapons or knives to schools. But I think, actually my friends and I were talking about this a couple of days ago. If they were to start sort of airport security type of bags, checking bags and security systems, I feel like that would it would ruin the school atmosphere, sort of the welcoming atmosphere that a school has and should carry as an educational institution. I think that would definitely diminish the meaning of that.
I think if someone is angry enough to try to kill people in school and try to do whatever it is, like Columbine or Virginia Tech or any of these other shooting incidences, cameras are not going to stop them. And security measures can only go so far, because we've seen all of the TSA new requirements and this, that, and the other, and we've still seen problems in airports and planes and schools. The people who are going to do these things will do these things regardless of the surveillance. So the new question is how to prevent those things. And I honestly don't have much of an answer. It's such a big question for a 17-year-old.
I think that the school should have counselors talk to students one-on-one and ask them how they're doing, and really if they're having any bullying problems, and really just make sure that everybody's nicer. Like if teachers see a student bullying another student, say something, because I know that a lot of teachers don't say something.
I think the students could make a bigger impact at school than the teachers, because first of all, they actually know what's happening, and sometimes you just can't tell a teacher exactly what happened because you can't find words. And students, second of all, students can just more relate to the people who are being bullied and the people who are bullying?
I think it's really a matter of counseling, and I think it's a matter of reaching out to the kids and showing them that there is support. Because from the friends that I have within our school that have mental health issues and the students from our school that have spoken out about their mental health issues, it's a matter of support. The kids that have the most troubles feel the most alone, and I think it has to be an effort from our counselors and our teachers not to turn the other cheek, but they have to be the people that are reaching out and making an effort to make those kids feel included and involved and not different.
I think it's really good to do that restorative justice, because when you put the bully, like let's say I was the victim, and if I put the bully in my shoes, I think that they're going to see a whole new perspective, that they don't realize that they're hurting someone. They don't realize that they're making somebody feel bad every single day. They don't realize that they're making somebody cry. They just think about how they're bringing themselves up. And I think when you do restorative justice and put that bully in the victim's shoes, it really makes them realize the things that are happening to that victim.
I think that there needs to be some kind of curriculum for the mental health in school to teach kids how to express their feelings, how to deal with things, just in general, how they should be expressing their feelings and how they should be acting.
I think it is very important as you go through your school day and you really try to interact with other people to make sure that you try to think about how they're feeling. And the more self-centered and focused on yourself you are, you may miss what's going on in other people's life. Other people may be having just as hard of a time or more hard of a time than you, and you won't know that unless you treat everyone with the same amount of respect that you would like.
We have peer mediation in our elementary and middle schools, in which two kids will be forced to sit together and talk their problems out, and I think that is an effective way to handle things. But once you get to the high school level, that becomes very shallow, and talking things out really doesn't matter anymore. It's about feelings, and it's about doing things, and it's not about talking and surface level things like that anymore. So I think dealing with that is going to have to come through something deeper, something more immersive, like almost a walk a day in someone's shoes kind of thing, where you really get to experience what that lifestyle is, whether it be mentally disabled or different socioeconomic class. I think it's going to have to go one step deeper than a 20-minute talk session.
I really hope that if there is a bully that watches this, that they understand how kids like me, the victims, feel, truly feel, and hope that the bully changes and that they don't raise their kids, if they have kids, to be as mean as them, and that they get the message that, hey, these kids are being bullied, they don't like it. If this keeps happening, they might die, they might not have a good life. And I really want the bullies to understand that we have feelings. We're not mutants or anything like that. We actually have feelings. We are human beings. We're like every other person. We feel, we care, and they need to understand that.